So you're finally up on foil with the wing. Congratulations. That's a tremendous milestone and achievement. So you're now lifting off cleanly on the water, but your flights are maybe lasting milliseconds or maybe seconds if it's a good day. You're spilling off backwards, falling backwards upwind, or more likely you're being thrown instantly out the front door, pitching forward either onto your board or even more scary onto the oncoming wingtip of your foil. So now what? What do you do, right? So in this video, we're going to cover, like I said, the top tips and techniques or tricks that help me break through, and hopefully will help you break through, lengthen out your flights to the point where you're basically flying however long you want. Hey, this is Ben with AWKWA, Arizona Windsurfing, Kiteboarding, and Wingfoiling Association. So maybe this describes you. You're now at the point where you can get the wingfoil board planing. You can kind of almost pretty much take off at will anytime you want. I mean, you are actually up clean out of the water. You've got the moment of silence. You got all that stuff, except you just don't have flights that are long enough. And so from having done this a while and having definitely gone through those very, very frustrating, seemingly endless challenges and setbacks of trying to lengthen and expand my flights, as well as watching friends and my colleagues in the group and helping out or teaching a few of them, my conclusion is that the biggest issue is that you are what I call on the tabletop. Here we go, right here. When you get up on foil right away and you do not give the foil mast any direction, you might as well be on the tabletop, okay? And what I'm doing right here probably, I know it accurately depicts how I felt on my first couple of clean foil flights. And that is, you are all over the place, right? You're just trying, not only are you in survival mode, you're just trying to hang on, but you want that flight longer, right? You want to be able to stay on foil long enough that you can do what everybody's been telling you to do, and that is to start moving, going upwind, so that you don't have to sail off foil and schlog upwind to start all over again. This is exactly how you feel first time you're on foil without any pressure in the mast. And so what you'll notice, and I think why I call it the tabletop, is that notice how easily I spin or yaw on the horizontal plane. What that basically means is that you are subject to the mercy of the wind, and usually in a downwind direction, because your wing is usually presented a little forward or a lot forward. And because of that, you windsurfers and windfoilers know this. The leverage will then all be downwind. And so that is more often than not why beginners are sent out the front door. They often, and I know I did, I fall to the upwind side, or I fall backwards too, but it's just not nearly as prevalent. Okay, so now that you understand the concept of what I call the tabletop and why it's critical to get off of it, now we're going to cover how we get off of the tabletop. So on this first tip, just your stance, the way that you set up your feet during flight, or hopefully just slightly before flight, will make loads and loads of difference. So this will often be called different things. I personally like to call it a duck stance. It can be called an open stance. Some people call it an offset stance. So assuming I'm going towards the camera right here. You want the arch of your rear foot, at most maybe even the ball of your heel, to be over the center line. But I usually always just like to have the arch of my rear foot, my back foot, be directly over the center line, whereas your front foot is offset slightly. Generally, you want to aim for either your big toe or the ball of your big toe to be over the center line. Okay, so in other words, we don't want both of our feet over the center line. We just want a little bit of our front forward toe to be, or forward foot actually, to be over the center line. So I believe it works for the first reason is that the offset stance tends to put a bias onto the upwind rail. Okay. As you might imagine, if one of your foot or your leg is basically over on the upwind side as you're flying, particularly in a situation where any inputs to the foil are extremely sensitive, you just naturally, with that offset stance, have a bias on the upwind rail of the board. Consequently, that ends up canting the foil mast to the upwind direction as well. And now you're actually putting pressure on the mast. You're, to use the analogy I used at the beginning of this video, you're actually giving the mast some direction now, some instruction. And once you have pressure built in onto that mast, all of a sudden, that foil as a whole is going to become a lot more efficient at driving you upwind and being a lot more stable in flight. And now you're off the tabletop. And so the second reason why I think the offset or the duck stance is so simple but so effective is that it actually ends up opening your body while riding on foil. Okay, and so for this I've brought a duotone mini boom, but just bear with me and pretend that it's actually a handheld wing and that the handles are where my hands are. So pretend I'm on a board and I'm heading towards the camera here. As in the tabletop exercise or the video of the clip of when I was on the little fitness balance thingy, you're naturally going to be pivoted downwind and in all likelihood out the front. So by opening up our stance, what that ends up doing is actually allowing us to present the wing not so much laterally on the board now, but in a more forward presentation. This does a couple things. Number one, if a gust does hit you or the wind tends to be stronger than you're used to, and your posture and form, which we're going to cover next, is not quite where it needs to be, it's not that big a deal. The forward drive through that wing or a good gust that ends up hitting you in flight is not likely to, or not as likely to, send you out the front, but rather it will just keep the party going and continue to drive you forward. Okay, next tip, and I title this straighten up to fly right. What do I mean by that? When you're first starting out and it's a new sport, it's exhilarating, it's thrilling, but you're terrified too. At least I was. You're in survival mode, right? And so naturally, survival mode, you're just super tight, clinched up, curling up almost in a ball if you could, right? And that's how I looked, as you can see here. That's how I looked when I first started getting onto foil. It was amazing, but it was a freak out session at the same time. When you're like this in survival mode, all right, you're crunched down, you're hunched down, you're losing a lot of energy, you're losing a lot of power. It is just not efficient. It's not great for your lower back either. So straighten up and fly right. As I had that kind of breakthrough middle of last summer, and I started getting onto the water a lot more to build off of that progress, I finally, within a session or two, just tried to consciously force myself to get from here, survival mode, even though I'm like kind of able to foil a little bit longer and kind of actually even go upwind, just wasn't efficient, right? So I forced myself to stand up straighter, stand up taller, throw your hips forward and your shoulders back, okay? And as soon as I started doing that, my entire foiling experience on wing also changed dramatically. And so that's what I mean by straightening up in order to fly right, or in this case, fly longer. You don't want to be in survival mode. I know it's tough, but it'll come with more experience. But if you can, in the meantime, just kind of consciously force yourself to work on it and stand up straighter, it's going to do a couple of things, all right? First of all, as you can tell from my handy dandy prop here, you're going to be able to withstand the force and pull of the wing, which, depending on the size and depending on the conditions you're working in, is not insignificant sometimes, right? So going back to the previous points, gust comes along. If you're not in an offset stance and you're not ready for it, boom, the wing and the pressure in the wing could naturally just throw you over. But in addition to the offset stance, if you're also standing up, and like I said, hips and pelvis forward, back and shoulders back, really kind of braced for it and ready for it, what happens is now you're able to not only withstand the power on the wing or the occasional gusts better. You windsurfers out there, you're gonna understand this, because it's just like that. You're now able to channel the power being delivered to you from the wing through your arms, upper body, torso, down through your body, and especially your forward leg. You're going to be able to channel that power through from the wing, direct drive through to the board, and consequently the foil, that much more efficiently. As I learned with other water sports, the better form you have, the longer you're going to be able to ride, and oddly enough, the less sore you're going to be the next day. So don't take my word for it. Look at some of the better riders where you happen to be riding at, or your favorite spot. Watch them and watch how they look, and try to mimic or adopt their posture. You're going to see results almost instantly, but more importantly, you're going to feel your body's going to feel a lot better the next day and the next few days. So finally, as an added bonus, once you start kind of working your way upwind, the way that you position the wing will actually change somewhat as you improve your upwind efficiency and drive. Like I said, you're standing up a lot straighter, you're more vertical, you're leaning against the force of the wind. Now to expand the upwind drive speed and power you have going upwind, what you're going to find happening is now you're going to be less and less of having the wing more higher or more vertical, and you're actually going to be able to, like you've probably seen some of the better riders at your favorite local spot, dropping the wing down to the side, almost touching the water. And you don't want to go that far, but down to the side, and with generally speaking, your front arm pretty extended, and your back arm, of course, controlling the throttle, controlling the power. Okay. All right, kids, that's my video on You Are Up on Foil. Now what? I hope you'll take these tips and tricks that I've offered, try them out next time on your next session, and let me know in the comments below if they work for you. And if you like this video, please don't forget to hit the little like button, thumbs up down below. Finally, if you like this video and you'd like to see more like it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below, as well as the little bell icon, so you can get notified of the latest tutorials like this, other how-tos, gear reviews, travel guides, etc., and other fantastic content that we hope to be uploading in the very near future. Until next time, this is Ben with AWKWA. As always, wishing you good winds and happy sailing.